Hello and welcome. This is Jennifer. I'm so glad you're here. Today I'm sharing with you my 2022 Crafty gift guide. Now this is a bunch of different products that I just simply find helpful in my craft room. Some of these things are behind the scenes stuff that I use to make my crafting easier, to keep things organized and more. I just thought by sharing this list, maybe you'll find a thing or two that might be helpful to you. And chances are you've seen some of these things in my videos before. This video is longer and packed full of a lot of information. So sit back, relax, and if you see something you're interested in, be sure to check my Crafty sales page first. A lot of companies have products on sale right now, and that might be helpful. Also, most craft companies ship pretty quick these days, so you shouldn't have trouble getting anything by the holidays. However, this is a list that can be helpful any time of the year, and it's something that you can refer back to anytime needed. Now, I will be doing my favorite crafty things, but I'll be starting that in the new year. Long story behind that, I'll share that later, but today is just a fun, crafty gift guide with lots of helpful tips. By the way, I'll be mentioning a lot of different things here. If you want more information on a particular product or to see it in action in a video, I will have links to those videos along with the products below, but not everything fits in the YouTube description, so I do recommend going over to my blog where you'll be able to find links for anything you need. All right, let's get started. I'll start with something I use in every video and I get a lot of questions about, and that is the Gina K Connect liquid adhesive in the fine tip bottle. So for many years, I have used the Gina K Connect glue in this smaller bottle. You've probably seen it in many videos. But in this last year, Gina has come out with the bigger bottle of Connect glue and then 3 empty fine tip bottles. And I'll talk about different things you can do with those fine tip bottles later. This is the glue that I use for majority of my crafting, and I'll demonstrate in a moment. But first, let me show you how I fill these bottles because I get questions about it. I take the cap off, and I also take off the little rubber stopper. I like to fill all 3 bottles with the Connect, so I have them ready to go, and I don't have to refill as often. However, you could just use one and save the other bottles for something else. Now, filling this is super easy. You take the nozzle of the large Connect glue bottle and put it into the empty fine tip bottle and you squeeze until it's full. Now, the nozzle on the fine tip bottle is super thin. It gives you really great, precise application of the glue. And with all glues, you want to make sure that you keep a lid on it or it will get clogged. It rarely gets clogged if you keep the lid on it. And the lid that I use is the rubber stopper that comes with it. Now you can keep it on the bottle, how it's intended to be on, and it just kind of hangs out there. And when you use the glue, it hangs out there. And then when you want to close it, you just put the stopper on. However, you can see sometimes it can get a little annoying in the way you can hold it in your hand. That's a bit better. Up to you how you use your glue. There are a few other options that you can do with this. One is to get a rubber band and put a rubber band around the bottle and that stopper, or I guess the leg of that stopper, that piece that sticks out. This kind of holds it back. So see how it kind of holds it back there? So it's out of the way as you use it. And then all you have to do is put the stopper on it as normal. It just has a little stretch there, but that works really well. But for me, I just take that stopper off and use it as a separate lid. I don't know, that's what works best for me. When I use it, I set it off to the side, and then when I'm done with it, I put the little stopper on and the leg kind of sticks out the side. There are many options, but that little stopper is the key to making sure that this doesn't get clogged. I never have issues with it. I know other people like to keep a needle or a pin like this in the nozzle and just store it this way. I've never tried that, so I'm not sure how well it works, but I do keep this pin. It's stuck on a magnet in my drawer, and every once in a while I'll just clean the nozzle out by just pressing the pin in and out a few times just to make sure it's nice and clean, and I've never had to worry about it. So this is what I highly recommend for glue for your cards. In fact, I call this my best friend in the craft room because I trust it and it doesn't fail on me. It always works great. Now, putting it down, you don't need much. You need very thin lines. If you put big lines of the glue and glue paper together, you might get warping or some, lines from the glue. Very thin line is all you need. And I also use this to add my gemstones and such, which you'll see me demonstrate in a moment. But I love the precise control of this bottle and how strong this adhesive is. Again, I use this for majority of my crafting. So first and foremost, I recommend my best friend glue, which is the Gina K Connect in the fine tip bottle. By the way, you can use the Gina K fine tip bottles with other products you may have. Maybe you have a favorite glue. You can put it in this bottle and it'll work for that. I have even found that Ranger Glossy accents work well in the fine tip bottle. I like to use this to put like a clear coating on maybe die cuts, add some dimension and shine, but it can sometimes get clogged in its bottle. So what I did is I put some into one of these Gina K fine tip bottles. When I'm done using it, I tap it down on my desk and then I kind of burp the bottle into a paper towel to kind of clear the glossy accents from the nozzle. Then I put the rubber stopper on it and then I'm good to go. And I've found that's been a great way to apply my glossy accents. So again, these fine tip bottles can be used with other glues and products. Just try whatever you've got. My next recommendation on my Crafty gift guide is a pickup tool, and this works great with your liquid adhesive. Here we have the Trinity Stamps Pickup Stick, and we also have the Gina K Designs Pick and Stick tool. These are great for picking up gems to add to your projects. They're great for handling tiny little die cuts. I'll demonstrate both. Now, one end of these tools has a piercing tool. The other end has a wax tip that's white. And this is different than most kind of pickup tools. It's a soft wax tip, so you want to be gentle with it, but I find it picks up much better than any other tool that I've tried. And it's very handy having the piercing tool on the other end. So you can use this tool very quickly and easily to get things placed just right. Now, both of them have the same kind of tips. Gina K's is a little different in that the ends of one of the lids, it has a silver marking, and the end of the other lid has a white marking. So you can know which tip is like the wax tip and which is the piercing tip. So that's kind of a little handy feature. They both work wonderfully, and you see me use both in videos. This brings me to another recommendation on my Crafty gift guide, and that is this little bead tray from Cat Scrappiness. I find this little tray very helpful whenever I'm putting on gems or pearls to my cards. I can pour them in here, find what I want, and then use the little nozzle to pour them back. So while I demonstrate that and my liquid adhesive and my pickup stick, I'm going to show you some of my favorite embellishments. So these are my Crafty gift guide too. I use a lot of different embellishments, but I thought I'd narrow it down to some that I think are good all around. The first is the Trinity Stamps Boiled Sugar Drops. These are clear and round and will match anything and aren't too distracting. And the best part about the clear and white embellishments I'm sharing with you today is that you can add color to them using Copic markers, alcohol ink, Sharpies, or more. All right, next up we have Lucy's Cards pearls here that have like an iridescent shine to them. I use those quite often on my cards because they go with everything. We also have Trinity Stamps Dewdrops. They actually have a bunch of colors like these. I'll show you the blue ones too. The cool thing about these is the color's on the back side and it looks like a drop, a clear drop on top of the color that is just gorgeous. You can see how it sits on the paper there. So there's the white and the blue, but again, it comes in many colors. I'm also really liking the Pinkfresh glitter drops. These come in a lot of different colors. This happens to be like a teal color here. I'm just demonstrating some of the different options. This is a champagne color one too. So this is like glitter in a gemstone. Lots of sparkle. Now, all of those suggestions so far have some dimension to them. If you're looking for no bulk options, here are some suggestions. Studio Katia has Glitz discs. These are flat like sequins, but there's no hole in the center. And these first two options, the champagne and the sugar, are like glitter in flat sequins. It's pretty cool. So the first one has some gold shine to it. This one is some white iridescent shine. They also have these silver fever ones, which look like little flat disco balls, a ton of shine. And here you can see very little bulk to them. They're flat, but you're not giving up any of that sparkle or shine. These are new to me, so you'll see me use these in videos very soon because I like that no bulk option. And here you can see no bulk when you look from the side. Some other options for no bulk are the Trinity Stamps Shimmer and Shine Confetti that has an iridescent shine to it. I use those a lot. And then you have the silver dot confetti below that. By the way, notice some of the glue kind of oozed out from behind one of those confettis. No worry, the Gina K Connect dries clear, so it's not a problem. And then finally, we have the Trinity Stamps Oh My Stars Confetti. These iridescent stars I use a lot in night skies and such, and nothing adds more sparkle than those stars. So these are just some options of the many, many embellishments out there. Some good basic options. Remember, you can add your own color with your Copic markers or Sharpies. If you are looking for kind of a bundle of basic embellishments, I had this on my Crafty gift guide last year, still holds true. It's from Trinity Stamps and it's lots of my favorites all included together. Now, before we move on to different topics, I did want to demonstrate that pickup stick tool is great for die cuts. Even if you don't put embellishments and pearls, you can use it to pick up little die cut pieces and place them wherever you want on your project. Then you can use the sharp tip to kind of move it to get the placement just right. Really handy tool, inexpensive, and a great crafty gift. All right, let's move on to something else. This is another one of my recommendations. It's the Altenew glue tape and refills. Now, I don't use tape runners all that often because I use my liquid adhesive for most things. A little goes a long way with liquid adhesive. But if I want to use a tape runner, this is what I've been reaching for because I've never had it get clogged. You know, sometimes they get kind of backed up and it makes a mess. These really have never been a problem. And now Altenew has refills available for them, which they didn't in the past. Now you see it puts down tiny little dots of glue. But the best part about this is you can easily rub the glue away if you put it somewhere you don't want it. Or you can use an adhesive eraser to quickly remove it, which, by the way, I think should also be on this crafty gift guide list. An adhesive eraser is very handy and inexpensive. So if you are looking for a good tape runner that holds very well, doesn't get clogged up, and has refills available, this is what I would recommend this year. It's important to include on my crafty gift guide some good scissors because I've tried so many and these are the 3 that I've landed on. I do think having 2 is good. First is to have a smaller pair of scissors. There are 2 that I reach for. First, we have the Tim Holtz haberdashery scissors. These are highly durable titanium coated blades. They are not serrated. They're very smooth, great for fabric, but I use them for everything in my craft room. The handles are really soft, so you can do a lot of cutting with them. I also like the Simon Says Stamp scissors. These are newer, and I've been using them a lot lately, and I really like them. They're a little bit smaller. They have non-stick stainless steel blades, so it doesn't get all mucky, and they are great for fussy cutting. These are both great options for small scissors that you can use for pretty much anything in your craft room. However, I do also recommend having a pair of scissors with long blades. It's really helpful when you're cutting maybe along the edge of a card. The ones I reach for the most are the Tim Holtz scissors that you see here. Again, super durable. Now these are non-stick titanium blades, very strong, micro-serrated, and this you can use to cut cardstock, chipboard, metals, and more. But I really just use them to cut longer things like along the edge of a card. I do think it's good to have the bigger pair of scissors and a smaller. So these are 3 that I would recommend. My next 2 crafty gift guide recommendations are tools that you don't really think you need until you have them and you wonder how you ever survived before. First is a good scoreboard. I really like the Altenew scoreboard because of the size. I'll demonstrate it in a moment. It's also got a good price point, and the tool it comes with is different. It has like a stylus tip on it, which is really fun for techniques. In fact, I'll link to a video showing some fun techniques you can do up here in the top right and below in my description. You could either use this tool for scoring, or you can use a bone folder, which is my other recommendation. A good quality bone folder is a must-have for crafters. It makes a huge difference. There are many different ones out there. This is one from Studio Katia. Now let me demonstrate how you could use both with the scoreboard. Now first, you can use this stylus type tool that comes with the Altenew scoreboard. If you use this to score, I recommend using a softer hand. It does a lot of pressure at a little point, and so you don't need to apply much pressure. And there you can see you can get a great folded piece. Now, I normally use, for creating folded card bases, I use my Altenew scoreboard with a bone folder. And notice, this is an 8.5 by 11 sheet. It fits into this scoreboard perfectly. So I have it in there. I'll just score at the halfway point, which is 5.5 inches. This is, again, how I make my note cards. So I score across the entire piece. Then I take it out of the scoreboard and I fold back on itself, and then reinforce that fold line with the other end of my bone folder. Then we cut this in half, which is at 4.25 inches. And there we have two top folding note cards that are 4.25 by 5.5 inches. That's how I make all of my card bases. And using the scoreboard and a bone folder gives really nice folded results. Now, if you want a side folding card, you can put your cardstock in the other way and score at 4.25 inches. And in this case, I go halfway down, rotate it, go the other half, then we fold back on itself, reinforce that fold line, and cut in half with my trimmer. So I'll cut in half at 5.5 inches, and there we have two side folding cards that are 4.25 by 5.5 inches. So two different ways to make note cards out at 8.5 by 11 sheet, but using a scoreboard and a bone folder make a giant difference. My next Crafty gift guide recommendation is probably the most colorful, best overall gift you can give to a crafter, and that is the color cubes from Sarah Renee Clark. There are two different cubes, one or both are great, and look how beautiful they are on display in your craft room. Display alone, I love them. But what's inside is really fun. There are lots of different cards with color suggestions. Now, I have used her color guides for many years. I keep a PDF like on my laptop, and I refer to it often, but this is great because it's something tangible you can flip through and then bring to your crafty desk and find inspiration. I love her color suggestions. The quality of these cards is just amazing, so it makes a really great gift. Now, I don't know Sarah personally. I just really am a big fan of her eye for color and the products she creates. So here you can get an idea. On one side is a photo that inspired the colors. On the other side is more information on those colors. Two different cubes with different suggestions. Beautiful, beautiful gift. My next recommendation on my Crafty gift guide is a cardstock that you have to feel to believe. I highly recommend it. It's the Tim Holtz Black Distress Heavy Stock. This is 8.5 by 11 black cardstock. It's heavyweight, 125 pounds, and it is the smoothest cardstock. It looks like velvet. Whenever I use this on a card and send it to a crafty friend, they always ask, "What's that black cardstock? It's so smooth." Definitely different than any cardstock I've used. Now, this is the same cardstock that he sells in smaller pieces and called matte black cardstock, but now it's in full-size sheets so you can make note cards from it. Now, this is as dark black as I can find. You can see it there on the left in comparison to a couple other black cardstocks I have. We're talking very dark black, and super, super smooth. It is just beautiful. I'm glad there's bigger size now so I can use it for all of my black cardstock needs. And yes, I hoard this stuff. It is that good. All right, next up, I highly recommend having some sort of sticky mat in your craft room. Last year, I recommended sticky mats, but I had to cut my own because there weren't any on the market. Now there are three really great options, and you can choose from them, but having a sticky mat is a game changer. The first option is from Misty, and these are 3 sticky mats that come together in a pack, and you can see each one has a different grid pattern on it. You just remove the clear backing on it, and you have a sticky mat that will hold things as you stamp, stencil, and more. I'll demonstrate some things throughout this video. So the Misty sticky mat is one option. Another option is the Brutus Monroe stick and stamp mat. I think this was the first one that came out this year and one that I use often in videos. Now this is solid white with the black grid lines. Again, you remove the clear paper to reveal the stickiness. If you get a sticky mat and it's too sticky at first, just press a cloth over it a few times to remove a bit of the stickiness. But I find after using it a bit, the stick is perfect. Now let me demonstrate some ways to use sticky mats. One of my favorite ways is with stencils. You can put your paper down, then your stencil on top of it, and the sticky mat will hold both in place as you ink. As I demonstrate this, I can show you another suggestion on my Crafty gift guide. It was on there last year, and that is the ink stand. This is made by a husband and wife team in Indiana, and it's a great tool to hold your ink pad still as you do your inking. I use it in almost all of my videos. So here I'm just putting ink over my stencil, and you can see how the stick and stamp mat holds the paper and the stencil in place. When you want to remove your paper, you fold the sides of the sticky mat back and your paper will pop off. So that is a great way to remove it. The only thing I don't recommend using on a sticky mat is some sort of tape or super thin paper. So just any cardstock would work. Now another way to use a sticky mat is inside of your Misty stamping tool, which is every year on my Crafty gift guide. I highly recommend every stamper have some sort of stamp positioner. In fact, this year they came out with the black Misty stamping tool. You can see the black trim on it. So that is a new option and a great gift idea. But here I'm showing how the 2 different sticky mats, the Brutus Monroe and the Misty sticky mats, both fit well inside of the stamping tool. I tend to use the Brutus Monroe more because it's not see-through, so I have that nice crisp white background, but both work great. The advantage of having the sticky mat in your stamping tool is it holds your paper in place as you stamp on it. Let me demonstrate that. I have a cling background stamp in my stamping tool, and I'll also put in my stick and stamp mat. Now I can line up my cardstock piece with this cling stamp. I want to make sure that the writing on this cling stamp is straight on my paper. So by laying the paper on there, I can make sure it's positioned straight. Then I close my Misty upside down, and the sticky mat will grab my cardstock. And now I know when I ink up this stamp and stamp it onto my paper, it will stamp straight. It's also helpful to have a sticky mat in your stamping tool so that if you have small little die cuts you want to stamp on, it'll hold it in place nicely. It's just a handy tool to have. Now there is one other type of sticky mat that came out this year that I really like to use too, and that is the all-in-one Turnabout jig from Concord and 9th. Now this is a small square, it's 6x6 sticky mat. So if you're looking for something smaller, this is a great option. But it's also very helpful if you use Concord and 9th Turnabout stamps, which I'll demonstrate in a moment. But keep in mind you could use this smaller sticky mat with or without a Turnabout stamp. The nice square size with the guidelines is very helpful. Now here I'm doing some stamping with that jig and a Turnabout stamp. Turnabout stamps are from Concord and 9th, and they're background stamps mostly that are designed to stamp once, then rotate your jig, stamp again in a different color, rotate your jig, and do that 4 times with 4 different colors, and you get a colorful background. Now I'm not going to show much more than this quick little demonstration here, but I will link to a video that shows much more detail about Turnabout stamps because they would be great as a crafty gift also. But this jig works great with the Turnabouts and any other kind of crafting where you just want to hold something still as you work. By the way, I thought I'd mention if you have any kind of sticky mat, cleaning it, I don't do a whole lot to clean. I just use like a wet cloth to wipe ink away, but I know you can also wash it in the sink with some gentle dish soap, and Brutus Monroe has a sticky mat cleaner that I do recommend. So that is another option, but really I just wipe mine off and it's good to go. Okay, back to the Misty stamping tool. Again, on my Crafty gift guide every year. If you have a stamping tool and you use bar magnets like this one, here's a handy little gift that I think is really fun. These are little stickers from Tailored Expressions. They're called magnet pickup stickers. They're super thick, and you can see there's like a white line at the center. You line that up with the edge of your bar magnet, and then you wrap it around. That way you have this colorful little tab to pick up your magnet, which if you've ever used one, you know is super strong. So it's really handy to do. Now, sometimes I just wrap washi tape or use other tape, as you could see on that magnet there, but it always gets all nasty and doesn't hold up. These are inexpensive little tools that you can add to your magnets that will hold up better over time. Just a fun little stocking stuffer idea and a great way to add color to your stamping tool. Okay, my next Crafty gift guide recommendation is the biggest on the list, but definitely one that I highly recommend, and that is the Anna Griffin Empress die cut machine. This is the most magical of electric die cut machines, and I use it all the time. There are two sizes. I'll show you the original size first. It's the bigger one. And what I like about this die cut machine is it cuts beautifully every time. And the plates last a long time. In fact, there are a few different ways you can use your plates. I'll demonstrate both. And I have never had warping issues. So this is the traditional size Empress machine. This is the one that I use the most often. In this video, I'll just show you some ways to use the cutting plates. There are two different ways I found that work, but I do have a more complete video up here on the top right. Now, for doing die cutting in this machine, one way you can use the plates is to start with a clear cutting plate. So you can see that's plate 8 here. Then you can use your magnetic plate. Now, the magnetic plate with this machine is much thicker than the magnetic plates with other machines, and it makes it so it lasts longer. Now in this case, I put my paper on top of the magnetic mat. Then I put my dies face down onto it. Notice that the dies won't fall off and you don't need tape to hold them in place. If you need an extra metal shim, you would put it between these two plates, but I have never used that. Oh, totally up to you with the machine you have. On top of this, I will put another clear plate. This is the sandwich that you can use for die cutting, one of the sandwiches you can use. Now you can put these plates through in this direction, or you can put them through sideways, totally up to you. You put the plates into the machine, press run, and it feeds through on its own. And you'll see you get beautiful die cutting. So this is one way to use your sandwich of plates to do die cutting. I have done both. I think the next way is the one that I probably will stick with the most. But in this case, you have this magnetic plate that you do your cutting into. You can see how I've cut into it a lot. You can use both sides of that magnetic plate, but your clear plates stay clear, nothing damage to it. So you would just replace that magnetic plate every once in a while, but not often at all. All right, now the other way you can do a sandwich with this die cut machine is to cut into a cutting plate. So here is one of those clear plates. You can see I've been cutting into it. I put my cardstock on that, then my dies face down onto it. In this case, you could use tape to hold these in place if you want to. Now on top of this, I'll put that magnetic plate. And so in this case, the magnetic plate doesn't really hold the plates onto the paper. Instead, you would use tape here. So we'll put the magnetic plate on top. If you feel you need a magnetic shim, it would go on here next, but I never use it. Now I put on the other clear plate. We'll run this through our die cut machine. So with this sandwich, we are cutting into the cutting plate, not the magnetic plate. Our magnetic plate will last us a long time. In this case, you would just turn and rotate your clear plate, and that's what you would cut into and replace over time. So here you can see you get beautiful cutting results also. So you have the two different sandwich options. You can try them both out. Again, I think this is the method I will probably end up using the most, but both work great. And I don't have any problems with warping. You have both of these plates that you can rotate through. Here's the thing. Cutting plates, no matter what machine you have, are considered something you need to replace over time. They will not last you forever, but I find the plates with this machine do last quite a while and is one of the reasons I really, really recommend this machine. Another fun thing about this machine is there are different size plates that you can use with it. Here are super large plates, clear cutting plates and the magnetic plate. And look, you can put multiple pieces of cardstock in here and die cut a bunch at once. You can even put an 8.5 by 11 piece in there and it'll fit through this machine. There are also smaller plates. These smaller plates are meant for the smaller Empress machine, which I'll show you in a moment, but you can use these in the bigger machine, and I do all the time. They can go through either the sideways direction or the long ways, and it die cuts beautifully, and it's handy to have the smaller plates when you're doing a lot of small die cutting. And there are these longer small plates, which you can use with either of the machines. I haven't used these yet, I just bought them, but I'm sure they will work wonderfully as all the plates do. Now this is the mini Empress machine. I know Christina Werner really likes this one because of the small handy size. I will say that the cutting plates are about 4 inches wide, so they're a little narrow for a full like cover plate die. I'll show you here. Here's a cover plate die. You can see it's too big for this, but you could use it with the other machine. But if you do mostly small die cutting, you can use this for almost all of the dies you have. And then if you have something bigger, you could grab one of your older machines. But this one, you can do the plate sandwiches in either way, the 2 ways I demonstrated earlier. And it really is a nice, quick, handy machine to have on your desk. Both of these are electric, so you do have to plug them in. But if you are looking for a high quality, really reliable electric machine, this is what I recommend the most right now. And by the way, I probably should have said this at the beginning of the video. These are all my personal opinions, things that I've tried that I find work well. But do know there are a lot of great products out there, a lot of great die cut machines, a lot of different options. Everyone has different needs and wants when it comes to crafting. It's kind of like shoes. Some people like high heel shoes. Some people like Birkenstocks. Nobody is any better or worse for that. It's just personal opinion. I'm sharing what I have taken the time to really test out and use. Again, with this smaller machine, you have the little plates or those longer ones. And by the way, both machines do come with this flexible tan mat, which allow you to make impressions with dies. So you can use embossing folders, make impression with dies, and much more like you do with other die cut machines. I will say the one drawback of the Empress machines is that I don't know of a hot foil machine that will work with it. That's when I use my Spellbinders Platinum instead. I'll talk about that later. But if you are looking for a big crafty gift, I recommend the Anna Griffin Empress. I will make another die cut machine recommendation later in this video, but first I thought I would share some smaller die cut machine gift ideas. These are staple kind of die cut sets that can be used over and over again with any style of card. First up, I recommend having a die set to cut out sentiments. There are 3 recommendations, and you don't need all 3, just 3 different options. The first is the Altenew featured sentiment strip die set on the left. There are lots of different lengths and widths in here, and it has rounded corners. Then on the right, we have the Gina K Design sentiment strip die set. Great basic sizes that work with a lot of stamps, and it has a great price point. And then the third option is for really not so tall sentiments, so really tiny sentiments. This is the Photo Play sentiment strip die set. And by the way, if you aren't interested in having a die set like this and you want to cut your own sentiment strips, I will link to a video up here on the top right with a really great way to do that. Now here, this is how I use sentiment strip dies. I stamp my sentiment anywhere on scrap paper. Then I can use any of the dies to cut them out. I don't really care so much about the length of the die because I can use my trimmer to cut the ends to whatever size I want. I can look through the die to make sure my sentiment is sized in the middle just right. Then I put tape on it, run it through my die cut machine, and there I have a sentiment I can add anywhere on my card. And again, I can trim the ends to whatever length I want, or even cut them to a little V for a flagged look. So these are 3 great options. Again, I will link to a video up here on the top right if you want to learn more about really getting nice sentiment strips with and without dies. This brings me to another one of my Crafty gift guide recommendations, and that is Easy C tape. I actually get Easy C tape and I put it into a tape dispenser, and I use this tape to hold my dies in place. I use it for any kind of temporary taping in my craft room. I love this stuff. I think I had it on my Crafty gift guide last year. Highly recommend it. You can even reuse these pieces a few times and it doesn't tear your paper. It also comes in lots of different colors. I have 2 other die sets on my Crafty gift guide because they're so versatile. The first is the Altenew Versatile Greeting die set. So you get the words that you see here along with the shadow dies. And the font or style is something that works with a variety of cards. It's very universal. You've got the words thanks, friend, hugs, sweet, love, you, hey, and hello. Now, there is this die set, and sold separately is a foil plate set of the same words, and you can use the shadow die with those foil plates. Now, I've used the foil plates, but I really use the die set mostly. I love this style. Now, I use these so much that I have already die cut and glued together the layers for a lot of words, and I have them ready to go to add on cards. So here you can see lots of those sentiments already assembled and ready. I keep them in Hero Arts storage pockets. You can buy these storage pockets with or without the magnet piece on the inside. I use my most used dies with the magnet sheet, which I just showed you, but these pockets are great for storing your pre-die cut pieces. It has a flap that really closes nicely and stays secure. And here you can see I have lots of die cuts ready to go. And I have a little label on the top, so if I need more, I know where to head. So again, this is just a nice versatile greeting die set. If you want something more scripty, a great suggestion is the Sweet Sentiments from Altenew. Again, you have the word dies and the shadow dies included in the die set. And there is sold separately a hot foil plate that lines up with those shadow dies too. This set includes hugs, hello, celebrate, thanks, and for you. So I feel like between these 2 die sets, you've got a lot of sentiments that you could add to a variety of style of cards, making them both great gift ideas. And again, these pockets are Hero Arts pockets. You can get them with or without that magnetic piece. I've been using the magnetic piece in storage pockets for my most used dies and foil plates. I'll talk about that in another video. There is one die that I recommend on my Crafty gift guide this year because it's such a universal design and it is quite brilliant if you ask me. This is the double stripe die from Concord and 9th. What's cool about this die is you can cut it so that it creates faux stitching lines in 2 different directions, or you can create a plaid. This is the first position. You just line it up with one side, run it through your die cut machine like a regular die, and you get this fun faux stitch pattern. Now you can switch it and put it in the other placement and run it through again, and that gives you lines in the opposite direction. So you can create a plaid like this. I've used it many times in videos. I just recommend it because it's a good universal die that adds interest to any background. Another great universal product for backgrounds is this Swiss dot embossing folder from Gina K Designs. I like it because the pattern is universal and it's 5x7, so you can use it on your larger card backgrounds. I put both of these products on my Crafty guide list because it would work for any crafter, any style, any theme, universal designs. And this embossing folder is one that you can use with whatever die cut machine you may have. You just follow the manufacturer's instructions. Another thing that I highly recommend is on my Crafty gift guide are these trays for organizing. I use these in videos, but a lot off screen. I have these on my desk anytime I'm crafting. I put my little die cuts in here as I craft. I put my dies in here as I craft. Even when I take a stamp out of my stamping tool and I don't want to take the time to put it away just yet, I stick it in one of these trays. I use these trays every time I craft. I tried lots of different trays over the years, and there's a particular set I like because of the different size trays included and because they stack nicely. I'll link to those below. But really, any kind of trays would work, and I recommend for any crafter. Another thing that I recommend is a paperweight, something heavy to put on your die cuts as you allow them to dry, as I'm doing here. This is a Share Handmade Kindness crystal paperweight. My friend Jossie over at Bossy Jossie makes these. I don't get anything for her selling these. I just wanted to support a fellow crafter and small business owner. She has the rights to use the Share Handmade Kindness greeting, and this paperweight is nice to put on die cuts while they dry or on card panels while they dry. You could use absolutely anything heavy to do so, but it's really cute. It's nice in the craft room and a nice reminder of why we do this hobby. It also comes in a nice box, so it's ready to give as a crafty gift and even works as something to put on display in your craft space. Let's change gears now, and I know this seems silly to put on a crafty gift guide, but this cleanup tool is really helpful with stamps. Usually I use a dry cloth just to wipe my stamps, get them as clean as can be. That's all I need. However, if you have some stubborn ink that you want to clean off so you can use a lighter ink color, I recommend highly the Hero Arts Ultra Clean plus their new scrubber. Their scrubber comes on a wood block stamp, which they get made in California, and you can take the scrubber off to clean it and then put it back on. They even have replacement scrubbers. But what you do is you spray your stamp, clear or cling, with the Ultra Clean. Once you've sprayed it, you use that scrubber to scrub all over the stamp to clean it off. Then I usually use a baby wipe or a spray of water just to remove the cleaner, and then your stamp is good to go. You don't have to worry about any color transferring onto anything else, even if it is stained. Sometimes your clear stamp stains. But that Ultra Clean and scrubber are great for cleaning it off so you're good to go with future stamping. The scrubber is a game changer for me. I've used the Ultra Clean for many years, but the scrubber makes a big difference. Now, I use the Ultra Clean and scrubber for other surfaces in my craft room, such as my work surface, and even that mouse pad that's in the Misty. Now, if you look at my mouse pad here in the corner, there's some stamping on it that won't come off with a baby wipe. I spray it with Ultra Clean, use my scrubber, and look at it. It picks all that color up. I even use it on the door of my stamping tool. So this is a great way to quickly clean. Again, you can take the scrubber pad off the block and clean it with dish soap, and you can replace that scrubber pad. They sell replacements. And yes, I like it so much that I'm willing to include a cleaning product on my crafty gift guide. All right, now another thing that a lot of people ask about is mailing our cards. And I think it's important to add this to our crafty gift guide because mailing our cards is so important, just as important as creating them. Now, I use these clear bags to store my cards after I make them. I create a card, I pick an envelope to go with it, and I keep it in this clear bag. I like that the sticky portion isn't on the flap, so I don't have to worry about the stick sticking to my card when I pull it out. And this is how I store my cards when they're done. But I also use them to mail my cards. I don't always show this in videos, but I think it's important to note. There are many ways you can mail your special cards, even if there's lots of bulk, and I'll share a few here. I usually take my card out of the sleeve that I've stored it in, write my message on the inside, and I'll link up here to a video that talks about what I do on the inside and back of my cards if you want to check it out. I then put the card into my matching envelope, put it back in the sleeve, and seal it up. That way I know my card is protected, it won't get wet, and it's completely fine. You can put a white label on the front with your address and return address and mail it that way. But I like to use a rigid mailer. Now, these rigid mailers have become a best friend of mine because they're trusted and they're strong. And I know if I put my card in this, that it'll arrive okay to the recipient. I will link below to 2 different rigid mailer options. These are the ones that I like. They're nice and thick. There are some that are a bit thinner if you want that option. Still rigid, but thinner, and I'll put that link below also. I would say 90% of the time I use this rigid mailer to send my cards, so I know they arrive safe and sound. It costs a bit more. It's $1 something. Every post office seems to be a bit different, but I think it's worth it when I spend this much time on a card. Another option is the Tailored Expression card cushions. These are pre-cut foam pieces that you can put on the front of your card, then slide it into your envelope. This will help to protect any kind of embellishments or stamping you have on the front of your card. If it's thick, it will still cost a little bit more to mail, but usually it's under $1 still. So these are just some options. If you want to make sure your cards arrive nicely, you can still use a padded envelope if you want to, but I wanted to share these. One more mailing recommendation, and that is an A6 envelope. An A6 envelope is a little bit bigger than the A2 cards we normally make. So see how it's a little bit bigger, so you can have things hanging off of your card, or if your card has a lot going on, it just gives you more room when you send it through the mail. Regular postage is the same as long as there's not too much bulk. It doesn't cost more for the bigger size envelope. Now, I will link below to the A6 envelopes I like. That is a great source for regular A2 envelopes, 5x7 envelopes, anything. They have a great selection of colors and styles of envelopes to choose from. I think it would be a great crafty gift if you got lots of colorful envelopes to use on your cards. By the way, here's a comparison between an A6, which is slightly bigger, and an A2 envelope size. I will say when I use a rigid mailer, I use the regular smaller envelope size. But sometimes when I just want a more wiggle room and I don't need to use a rigid mailer, I use the bigger A6 envelopes. It's nice to have the different options. And again, when you spend this much time on a card, it's good to have quality envelopes to put them in. If you're looking for more information about mailing cards, I will link to a video up here on the top right, but I plan to do another video very soon as part of my favorite crafty things, so stay tuned for that. All right, my next suggestion is definitely at the top of my crafty gift guide list. This is something I've never shared in a video, but is really important behind the scenes for my crafting, and that is the We Are Memory Keepers project cart. There are lots of carts out there, but this one is special because you can take the trays off and bring them to your work surface. I have 3 of these in my craft room, 2 for me, and 1 for Lila, and they are a key part of staying organized. I can't recommend these enough. Now let me show you just some of my trays and what they have on it sitting here in my craft room right now. Here's one that has some Concord and 9th cards that I've started. You can see I have die cut and glued together lots of these quilted die cut pieces. They're in those trays, which I recommended, ready to go. I'm still assembling some of these cards. In fact, some of the cards that are completed, they just need a sentiment, are in a Simon Says Stamp zipper bag, which is another thing I have on my crafty gift guide list. These come in lots of different zipper colors, and they are fantastic for organizing your projects as you go. I use these zipper bags daily. You can also see on this tray from the We Are Memory Keepers project cart, I have the dies, I have my note cards in here. So this is like a project that's in the works that I'll work on and then I'll set aside and come back to later. But I know everything is here and organized in the trays, in the zipper bag, ready to go when I'm ready to go once again too. Now here's another tray. This one is from Lila's cart. On here are some projects that she started when my new mother-in-law Peggy visited, and she's a crafter now too. And so these are some cards we made with her, some layering stencil background she created. She loves layering stencils. And she wanted to put it on the tray so that when Peggy returns over Christmas, we can pull out the tray and pick up where we left off. This cart is great for anyone who likes to plan or procrastinate. Here's another tray. On this one, I have some pre-die cut pieces that I created for a Concord and 9th set that I really liked. I'm die cut them already. I'm just waiting to stencil and stitch them and add them to cards. I'll link to a video that shows more about that project up here on the top right, but I have this tray ready to go when I am. This next tray is an example of a project that I've thought of but I haven't done yet. Some Spellbinders products, and I even have the cardstock ready to go. These colors were inspired by a card I found in the Color Cube, which I showed you earlier in this video. I picked out the cardstock already, so when I'm ready to craft with these, I've got the cardstock already decided, I've got the dies together, and I'm ready to go. Now, this brings me to another recommendation. I know there are a lot of kit clubs out there where you subscribe and each month you get different products. I think the one that I recommend the most is from Spellbinders. Spellbinders has lots of kit clubs. They have an embossing folder of the month where you get a different embossing folder each month. They have a glimmer for hot foiling of the month. They have a large die, small die, stamp set, coordinating dies. They've got lots of options. You sign up, you can cancel whenever you want, and that product is automatically delivered to you. They even have a combination where you get all of the different kits of the month, all for only $100 a month. Now, I know that sounds a lot, but it is a ridiculous amount of product that you get. The value in these is outstanding. So if you were looking for a kit that you could subscribe to each month, it would be a great gift. Spellbinders has a lot of options. I'll link below to a video that explains more about their subscription service. It is highly recommended. And this brings me to another great Crafty gift guide recommendation, and that is a glimmer machine. Glimmer machines are used to do hot foil. And if you've never seen a hot foil card in real life, the foil is beautiful. And the glimmer machine is the machine that most folks use. There are other hot foil machines out there. You need to find which one works with your die cut machine. The one that I use most is the Spellbinders Glimmer Machine. You can see me using it here. This provides the heat. And then you take all of those plates out when the timer's up and you run it through your die cut machine. The die cut machine I use with my Spellbinders Glimmer Machine is the Platinum 6 from Spellbinders. I'll talk about that die cut machine in a moment. But as far as foil machines, I know many people are on the edge trying to decide if they want to invest in a foil machine. I will say I know foiling isn't going away anytime soon. More and more companies are coming out with foil plates. Many companies have it on the plans for 2023. So I do see it as another staple in our card making, like stamping and die cutting. Now, foil isn't for everyone. Some people don't like that shine, and I get it. But if you are on the edge, it is a great thing to include on your crafty wish list. Now, as far as the die cut machine that I use with my Glimmer foil machine, it's the Spellbinders Platinum 6. This is my favorite manual die cut machine where you use the crank to put the plates through. Earlier, I suggested the Empress, which is my favorite electric machine. I use both machines. This is the one I use often in videos because I can easily bring it in front of the camera to demonstrate. And this is the machine that I use for my Glimmer hot foil. Now, in this last year, Spellbinders has come out with a universal plate system. You get a pack of plates and it makes it very easy to figure out what sandwich you need for various things such as dry embossing, die cutting, embossing folders, and more. And it makes it really easy because the instructions are on the plate. I'm using those universal plates here. Now the universal plates you can buy separately if you already have a Spellbinders machine. If you don't have a Spellbinders machine, you can now buy the machine and it comes with the plates. So that's just something to consider. I definitely recommend the Spellbinders Platinum 6 if you're looking for a manual die cut machine that can be used with foil and regular die cutting and embossing folders, everything. I've never had problems with any warping, and Spellbinders is a great company who stands behind their products. I will talk more about the die cut machine in a My Favorite Crafty Things video, but I wanted to include it on this crafty gift guide for sure. Okay, now if you like to color, a great crafty gift idea is Olo Markers. Now, Olo Markers are incredible alcohol markers, and they are great for blending and coloring. Now, if you have Copic markers or some other alcohol markers, I'm not suggesting you replace them. These can be used in addition to them, or if you've never purchased any alcohol markers, this is a great place to start because the price point is really good. Now, I'm going to only talk about them briefly because this video is so long as is, but these are really easy to use alcohol markers, great price point as I mentioned, and great if you're limited on space. Now, first of all, there are different tips. The tip I like is like this firm brush tip. It's similar to Copic, but a little bit different, but you can use them in the same way. Now, what is really cool about these markers to me is that you can set up your marker in different ways. Now, you can buy like half of a marker, which is filled with a ton of fluid, the way they've designed it, and you can buy just a plain end to it, so you can use it like a regular marker. Or you can buy two of the same, so you have lots of color in your marker. You could do different tips on different ends. Or you can put two different colors together like I've done here. So you have a lighter color on one end and a darker color on the other end, which really takes out a lot of the guesswork on which markers to use together and is really nice if you're limited on storage space. So there are different ways you can assemble the markers. I will link to their site. They have a lot of great information there, very easy to follow, and you can see the different options there are. Again, I'm not suggesting at all that you replace the marker system you may have, but it is a nice addition. I do know that they'll be adding more colors, but right now these are the colors that are available. Lila did this little color swatch for me. You can see there are a lot of beautiful colors. I love those teals. I love the reds. But what I really like about these is the skin tones. I really like the different skin tones available. I feel like they blend very easily together. And there's actually a set where you could just get the skin tones if you are interested. I'll link to a couple sources for all this below if you're looking for more information, but they really are great products, and I find that the team is made up of great people. Okay, as far as inks, there are so many amazing inks on the market, so many. I will talk about my favorite inks in another video, but today I thought I would include the Altenew Fresh Dye inks because these are new and you can get them in a bundle or separately. I was blown away with how well these inks stamped. It's a new formulation, gives great coverage, stamps nice and crisp, and I love this round ink pad where the lid kind of clicks on so it doesn't fall off. I drop my ink pads all the time. So if you're looking for a stocking stuffer of some colorful ink, this would be a great suggestion. Again, I love many inks out there, and I will talk about those in a future My Favorite Crafty Things video. My new mother-in-law is a crafter. She's getting into card making, and this set of ink is actually what I bought her for a Christmas gift. Here you can see how the ink stamps very crisp and very solid with just one stamp impression. Really gorgeous, and I'm looking forward to them expanding the color selection. I have a couple more crafty tools to include on my list. First, we have Masking Magic. I highly recommend Masking Magic. If you do any kind of masking or inking where you like to mask off different areas, this is the product to use. The masking paper is nice and durable. So you can stamp and stamp and stamp over it or ink and ink and ink over it and it won't bleed through. So you can reuse the pieces many times. It really makes a big difference when you're crafting. Another thing that I like to do with masking magic is if I'm creating an inky card, I will cut a piece of masking magic to the size of my card, like you see here, and I put it on the back of the card to keep the back of the card from getting ink on it and staying nice and clean. And you'll see I stick it back on my sleeve here so I can reuse that piece of masking magic to protect my card over and over again. And this year, Gina came out with masking magic strips. In a pack, there are lots of strips of different widths, and this is great for creating stripes of inked color or putting a little masked trim around the edge of your card. So many ways to use it. I'll link to a video up here on the top right. But you can see I use a lot of masking magic and reuse those pieces often. I have one last tool for my Crafty gift guide. This is a new one. It is from Lawn Fawn. It's the 6-inch zero centering ruler. I've used the 12-inch one for some time now, but the 6-inch version is very handy. Along one edge, you go from 0 to 6 inches like a normal ruler. On the other edge is zero centering. So 0's at the center, and it goes to 3 inches on both ends, which is really helpful in finding center points. I like that this ruler is marked with all the increments, so you have everything down to a 1/16 of an inch. If you struggle with using rulers and reading them, this is incredibly helpful. Anyways, who really wants to think in the craft room? This makes it so much easier. Now, there are many ways you can use this. For the zero centering, what I like to do is put the ruler on my cardstock. I want to find the center point here. And I make it so that the two edges of my cardstock meet at the same number on the two sides of the ruler. Then I make the mark at the 0-inch point. Now, there are other ways to use it, but that's the easiest to me. And remember, you do have the other regular ruler on the other side, which you can also use to find measurements. Here, I'm just measuring 2 3/4 inches. I also like that this is a wide ruler, so you can easily do a straight line across your paper by lining up the edge of the ruler with the edge of your cardstock. So there I drew a straight line in one direction, and I'll do a straight line in the other here. So it's really a handy tool to have. And the best part is Lawn Fawn sells these, but has them made by a small scrapbook store, so you're actually supporting 2 small businesses at once. A great tool to have. Now, last but not least, there are some great shirts and more available that would be great crafty gifts. Over on Maker Means, they have lots of Share Handmade Kindness shirts and more. These are all on sale right now because it was a limited time thing. I gave them permission to use the Share Handmade Kindness stuff, help them with the designs, but I don't make any money from them. This was just to support another small business. They, again, as I mentioned, are on sale now big time, and they do ship internationally. They have Share Handmade Kindness stickers, stamps, and even this great print that would make an excellent gift. If you're looking for some other shirt designs, I recommend checking out Jen Shirkis's site. She has lots of glitter-themed shirts and coffee and crafting shirts. And then finally, my friend Victoria Calvin over at Victoria Marie Designs has a bunch of different shirt and other merchandise for any crafter. Any crafter would love these. So those are a few other kind of crafty gift ideas. All right, there you have it. A really long video packed with lots of information. I hope it's helpful to you. If you want to pass these ideas on to someone, you can just give them the list below or tell them the timestamp of the product that you're interested in. But again, check my Crafty sales page first because many of these products are on sale right now. Thanks for spending this time with me. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you again soon.